All right, we're recording.
All right. Hello, hello, and welcome. All right, I'm gonna get us started here because let me get that sunlight out of the way because everyone's busy. You're moms with athletes and you have places to be, and I am clearly in my vehicle because I just picked up my athletes from their events or their practice, and so this is where I'm coming at you from. I'm going to just jump in, like I said, because we're busy. So I really want to just highlight a couple of things that are super important, period, because you're raising children that are growing at a rapid rate. But when our kids are, growing and developing, and then they are demanding their bodies to perform in some sort of athletic event of some sort, we are asking the body to do even more. And so having some foundational things in place are really going to help to keep your kids safe while they're doing their activity, to help them be their very best, and it's going to make their recovery time more efficient as well. And so, shocker, the first thing I'm going to talk about is nutrition and just eating really good food. But I'm going to simplify it for you. So if you would just think about eating God's food, or food that grows somewhere on the earth, or that has 5 ingredients or less, or that will sit on your counter and spoil within a week, like that's what you want to aim for. So we want to minimize, obviously, like processed foods, packaged foods, lots of sugar-laden foods. You want to watch your food dyes. You just want to really bring it in and make sure that they have a balanced diet that has, good meats, some fruits and vegetables, and you want to keep all the processed stuff to a minimum. You don't want their body having to filter through junk while it is being in demand to do something athletic. So I think that's pretty simple, like guidelines to help you stay. I mean, that's the guidelines I use for myself, and you can use them for yourself too. One thing that I was in like a nutritionist class, and there we go. So one thing they said is, like, when you are feeding your kid, like after an activity or even before an activity, if you wouldn't feed it to yourself before you step into the gym, then you shouldn't feed it to your kid before they step on the field or on the court, or, fill in the blank, whatever they do. And so if you think about that, like if you wouldn't go smash a Big Mac and some fries and a Dr. Pepper before you step into the gym, which I know I wouldn't because I would puke everywhere, then that's probably not the best thing to load your athlete with before they do their activity. So let's just focus on, like, across the board, just a good, decent feed the body so it can grow and perform diet. And then I'm only going to highlight one supplement because this is a supplement that can like do all the things. And I know that you're you're busy and you don't like, it would be so ideal if we could supplement our children because the American diet is not the greatest. But that's hard. And so this supplement's going to do it all for you. And that's Ningxia Red. And it's a juice that is a whole food supplement. It's made with the Ningxia wolfberry, or goji berry as some know it. And it has that whole berry in it. So you're getting the whole amino profile. You're getting the protein from the berry. Plus there's some added juices and some essential oils. This juice will support every single system in the body. If you want more information on it, you should ask. We can and have done an entire class over Ningxia Red, but it is extremely impactful supplement for you, your kid, your entire family. That's like the big plus on it, is like, this is not just for kids, it's not just for adults, it's not just for women. This is one supplement that supports the entire body, every system that every single member of the family can take. It's in juice form, so it's liquid, and the body is can like grab a hold of it and use it immediately. And my favorite is that it comes in these little packets. And so you can stick it in your kids' lunch. You can stick it in their bags as they're going to their activities. You can stick it in your bag. You can stick it in your little, like, where those wagons that you mamas are dragging out into the field and whatnot with all your stuff. You can throw some Ningxia Red packets in there. So it's a great way to get nutrients in your kid when you're on the go. And maybe it is hard to follow the rules that I just mentioned about whole food, because you can't be perfect all the time. And Ningxia Red will come in and help complete that circle where there are gaps. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is sleep. And so it's kind of known as like the sleep hygiene, or your sleep routine, basically, is like what do you do to make sure that your kid is getting proper sleep? So first of all, as our children are growing, you can look this up, like at different ages, they require different amounts of sleep, and it gets less as you get older, except an athlete is putting their body under like extreme demand to do things while growing. We already mentioned that. And so that restorative state that they get when they're sleeping is super important. And I know that sometimes when you're away on tournaments or you're traveling for athletics or whatever, you can't always get the kids to sleep at the same time. And that's fine, because kids' bodies are extremely adaptable. Let's just be real, even though they do need these things. But you will start to produce your melatonin most efficiently right around 10 p.m. And that does change based on where you live and when the sun goes down. So I'm giving you like a generality. So around 10 p.m., you would like for your athlete and yourself to be asleep by the time 10 rolls around so you can produce that melatonin. But there's going to be times that doesn't happen. So you just want to pay attention to like, what can you do to help the body trigger to produce the things it needs so that you get the deepest sleep and the most restorative sleep. So they wake up where the cells have what's the word I'm looking for? Regenerated. Thank you. Your cells have regenerated, your muscles have recovered, and you want that rest. So obviously their cognitive function is not being stressed. You don't want them in a fight or flight mode producing cortisol when they're playing their sports. You want them to be out there having fun and doing their best physically, and not their body fighting against them, but fighting for them. So it can look like making sure screen time is minimal when the sun goes down. If you're traveling from your activities to home and it's way late, then maybe don't have them in the back seat with a phone in their face. Bring a pillow in the car so they can at least rest, so that they can honor their body's cycle. Little things in the morning, you have them get up and step outside and get some sunshine in their face. Make sure that they're drinking water first thing in the morning. Just little things that really are common sense that if you will plug your kid into and teach them young, then they'll do it anyways, because you feel better when you do it. All right. So those are my tips for just baseline day-to-day stuff to help keep your athlete healthy. But the really good juicy stuff is what Sarah Loveland's bringing to us. And I know that's what you're here to learn all about. So I'm going to pass it to her and let her jump in.
Hello, everybody. Okay, before I jump into the nitty gritty, for those that don't know me, my name is Sarah. I have been a nurse since I graduated in 2012, so it's been 12 years. I have worked in the ICU for 11 of those years, and then the last 6 or 7 years, I've actually worked in rapid response. And my job in rapid response is basically triaging. I go and help other nurses on different floors who, when their patient is getting sicker and they're not sure what to do, or I help run codes or traumas or things like that. So I say that because when we get to the triaging part, I want you to know that I know what I'm talking about. So my job is to talk to you about game day kit, and then we're also going to talk about triaging in the midst of that game day kit. So when you think of what do I want to have on hand for whatever might happen, you're going to think of a general first aid kit. And I think that is actually a really good idea. Have some bandages, have some wraps, have some Band-Aids. If all of those are non-bleached and non-toxic, that would be ideal, but just have them if nothing else. And basically, if you're out and you're watching your kid play soccer or football or whatever it may be, what you're going to want is about 10 oils on hand, and they're going to cover most anything that will happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly go through those oils and how you can sort of use them very generally. And then I'm going to get into the what I get text messages and phone calls and pictures sent to me all the time about, this is this, what do I do? So this is what we're going to do. Frankincense. So let me list them all first. You're going to want frankincense, lavender, peppermint, digize, thieves, panaway, peace and calming, raven, stress away, and valor. Frankincense is a powerhouse oil. It can help with if your kid has anxiety before, during, or after. It can help with any viral stuff. Maybe they're under the weather and you want to keep them above the wellness line throughout the game. It can help with wounds. It has a lot of really great antiviral, antibacterial properties. So if something were to happen, scrapes, scratches, frankincense. Lavender. Lavender, we say it all the time, it's the Swiss Army knife of oils. If you go to PubMed or some other research article database, lavender is probably going to be the most reviewed, researched essential oil that we have because it does so much. It's a great calming oil. It's incredible for your skin, really good antibacterial, antiviral. So, again, if something happens, you get scrapes, scratches, burns. Those happen a lot when you're outside playing. You're going to want your lavender. Peppermint, if your kid, and this isn't about root cause, which is a lot of what we generally talk about in Oily Underground. This is more like acute care, which is what I'm going to grad school for. So I'm graduating in August for acute care NP. And so that's what we're focusing on right now, not root cause, which would be a whole nother different kind of talk. But if your kid has headaches or migraines a lot or is cramping, peppermint, 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 peppermint. Digest, if your kid has stomach issues, that might be because of anxiety, who knows, or they're getting tummy aches, you're going to want Digest on hand. Digest and peppermint together are really great. Those would also help with if they're constipated or even if they're having the runs, because all of those are related to game day performance. Thieves, again, if they're fighting something, or maybe you just want an extra layer of protection because you know something's going around, or when you are out playing a sport and it's game day, that stress can sometimes knock down your immune system where it would normally be up here, and because of the stress and the energy and the everything you're expending, it's coming down here. So it makes a lot of sense if you want to bring thieves and apply it throughout or before and after to help keep that immune system up. Panaway. As a nurse that works 12-hour shifts, I love Panaway, but your kids are going to love Panaway for any muscle aches, soreness, any enclosed wound. So goose eggs, bruises, bumps, things like that. Panaway is incredible. Peace and calming and stress away are both sort of similar. They're for anxiety, but everybody's body works different. So I like to have both on hand because in one situation, I might gravitate toward peace and calming, and the other, I might need stress away, or I might need both, depending on what's going on. Raven is going to be for your lungs. So a lot of kids have what's deemed exercise induced asthma. Again, I'm not going into the root cause. I'm doing acute care right now. So if that is your child, they have exercise induced asthma, Raven and peppermint and probably lavender are going to be your best friends. And for that, dilute them, throw it on the chest during the game, put it on their feet and their back as well. And you can do that throughout the game if they need it, but especially right before you start. Valor is not only like bravery, think bravery, but for those of us that have or had game day like nerves, but really great for bruising, and just actually it's called the chiropractor in a bottle. It helps your body gravitate toward balance. So Valor could be a really powerful tool that you use before and after to help, because of all the stress that your kid's body is going under, to help keep it balanced and in control and all of those things. Another one that I didn't mention, it's very expensive. It's called helichrysum, but it's actually in the kid scent oil Aoi. Helichrysum is incredible for actually like stopping bleeds. So cuts, scrapes, worst things, helichrysum, I would literally just drop it straight on because it like coagulates the blood. Okay, so all of those except Aoi are actually found in a bundle, and you get 2 more oils outside of that and some Ningxia Red packets to try, which Sarah Jones already went into about. But basically, it's the cheapest way to buy all of those, and it's a screaming deal. Plus, you get a diffuser. And I will circle back to that at the end. But now we're going to talk a little bit about triaging. So if you have a specific scenario, or maybe you've seen it and you didn't know what to do, or it unnerved you, or something just pops into your head, then at the end, you can unmute yourself and ask me or throw it in the chat box. And if you're not here, That's too bad. I'm just kidding. You can find me on the socials and ask me because everybody else does. So just bring it on. I will be clear that even though I am a nurse, I am experienced, I am not offering professional medical advice. And what I mean by that is that what I say you shouldn't take as if I'm a doctor prescribing because I don't know your whole story. I don't know the ifs, the ands, the buts, the befores, the afters. I don't know any of that. I'm just talking about what ifs. Okay. So, okay. So what if there's like the biggest one that I want to talk about is if there's no obvious hurt, right? Like there's not a gaping wound or slash or scrape, but your kid is hurting. So what do we do? How do we assess that? So first you're going to look at it and we have two sides of the body. So for the most part, that's super helpful because if it's a wrist, then you can compare the two wrists. They should more or less look alike. If the other one looks a lot different, not a good sign. It means there's probably a functional issue and maybe some bones broken too. So always be comparing sides. You can also tell then if there's swelling because they should be the same. So let's say this wasn't my watch, but actually my skin. I could compare the two and say that this is swelling, so that means injury, right? Okay, a lot of kids when they're hurt, they just kind of get paralyzed because they're so scared, and you ask them to do something and they won't do it. So you're like, "Well, I don't know. They won't do it. They're not functioning." So what you can do if that's the case, if they're like clutching their wrist or whatever part of their body, and you're like, I need to know if you can do this. And they're like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it because they're so scared. You can very slowly move it for them. So, what I mean by that is that you would take and that you would move their fingers. Okay. So, they're probably going to be scared, but you're going to be able to figure out is that mobile? Is it moving the way that it's supposed to? Am I able to move it even if they don't want to? Okay. The other questions and things you're going to be looking for those that just joined, I'm kind of walking through triaging for not obvious injuries right now. You want to look for numbness and tingling. Numbness and tingling equals nerves are affected. That doesn't always mean the worst case scenario, but it is actually really important to know. So, does the body part feel numb? Is it tingling? Is it like fire, things like that. So then you can be you if they say yes, okay, then you're thinking nerve. So maybe there's a pinched nerve for something. um the other thing that you should be able to do is you should be able to assess pulses. So this is more for like a large injury, but I would do it for any injury that's unilateral, that's on one side. So you should be able to assess the pulse on both sides, and let's say, okay, I don't really know what it's supposed to feel like. Feel it. Is it there? And is it not here? Or on one or the other? Obviously, they're alive and talking to you. I'm not talking about a cardiac arrest. I'm talking about blood flow has been stopped for some reason. So that's why a pulse is not getting through. Um, so let's say your kid's bleeding. How do we get it to stop? You get bleeding to stop by holding compression. There's two types of bleeding. The most common is like, oh, it's okay. You just hold pressure and it will slowly stop bleeding. That's going to be a darker blood. It's going to be a bit of a dribble. It might bleed a lot, but it's not like gushing. What you're super concerned about is what's called arterial bleeding. You're rarely going to see it in the sports, but it's just good to be aware. And that's going to be like a dark, bright red blood because it's freshly oxygenated from the heart, and it's going to be pulsating. And I mean, you will see it do this. It will pulsate. It will like do this because it's being pushed by the heart. That's what arterial blood is. Okay. That is absolutely a terrible thing. And all you need to do right then and there is just hold pressure. And you do not let go of that pressure until a professional comes or you get to where there's a professional. Okay. If it's not arterial, then you can obviously still hold pressure, get it above your heart, because then your heart has to work harder to get it up here. And that will slow the bleeding till the blood can coagulate, till your clotting factors meet up to where you're at. Okay, what if your kid hits their head? I just got a call about this. They hit their head and I don't know what to do. Do we need to take them in? Really great question. So, your first question is, did they lose consciousness? Was it witnessed and did they lose consciousness? So, did you or did you not see what happened? Can they or can they not recall what happened? If they lost consciousness, if you witnessed it and they blacked out for a while, or they cannot recall and there's a goose egg or something, then you should take the kid in. They need to get scanned, most likely. Other than that, if they didn't lose consciousness, what you're looking for is their level of consciousness. So, are they their normal selves? Are they alert? Are they talking? Are they grumpy? Grumpy is good in this case. We want them to be grumpy. Um, are they oriented? You're going to be concerned if they sort of are listless or drowsy or in and out of consciousness, or maybe they're confused. The other thing you can assess is their eyes. Do they look the same? The pupils, the little black hole in the middle of the eye, do the pupils look the same? If you cover this and let it go, does it go wide and come back? And does it look the same on both sides? Um, can they focus on you? Can they answer your questions? Can you get through a conversation? Can they move both sides of their bodies normally? If any of those questions are like no, then you should probably take them in to get looked at. When it comes to cuts and gashes and stuff, when do you need to go into the hospital? So, obviously, if it's very superficial, not much anyone's going to do, right? In that case, I would hold pressure, wait till it stops bleeding, clean it up. If it was very superficial, depending on where it was, I would feel comfortable diluting lavender and maybe some frankincense, put in like a paper towel and then like dabbing it on. That's what I would feel comfortable with. If it's still bleeding, wrap it up. If it's not, at least until they go to bed, because sometimes you can like rub it in your sleep and that hurts them, in which case wrap it up before bed. But actually like keeping it open and like breathing in the oxygen helps it heal better and faster. Other scrapes, if it's deep, what do I mean? So skin will look like skin, but if you look into the cut and if you look down and it looks like like there's different layers and the layers are changing, then depending on where it is, you might need stitches because then you're getting into the dermis and the lower, and hopefully no one's ever seen like a cut deep enough to see ligaments or tendons. I have. That's really obvious. It's like little ropes and strings and things like that. Absolutely go into the hospital. Kind of wrap it up if you can, immobilize that area and get to the hospital. Cramps, water and electrolytes, peppermint, diluted on the cramp will help it relax. I'm trying to think of what else is. For those of you who are here, does anyone have any specific questions re-triaging they want to ask me? Okay. Um, so those 10 oils plus aloe of what I talked about. If you are new to oils, this sounds crazy to you. Been there. I get it. Talk to whoever brought you here. Um, I'm happy to send you some really great research articles. Actually, there's a really wonderful account on Instagram. I'm going to add it right here called Science of Essentials. She is a nurse and she like what she does on Instagram is share research articles on the effectiveness of essential oils. So look her up. She's a wonderful resource for everyday stuff as well. But if you're not involved with Young Living and this is like really exciting and really empowering to you, because that's really the point of natural and holistic is to empower yourself, like to be able to do things in these situations instead of just like wrap it up and bring it in because you have no idea and there's no tools at hand, right? We want to give you those tools at hand. So if you're new to this and it's exciting, reach out to whoever invited you here because there's this really great starter bundle that has 10 of these 11 oils that I've told you about, and you get lots of extra goodies with them. We were going to mention recovery. a lot of what Sarah Jones talked about in the beginning is very applicable to recovery. The two things that I want to mention is if it was a grueling game, so I'm not necessarily talking every practice unless your kids talked at the coach and the coach got back at them with extra laps. But if it's a grueling practice or a game, especially like a tournament when you're doing multiple things in a row, you're going to want some recovery. What that recovery looks like Sarah Jones has already mentioned, is actual nutrition, not just like food that goes in the body, but nutritiously packed food, protein. Protein is the building block for everything. So, ideally would be like whole food sources of protein. So meat, tofu, edamame, Greek yogurt, cheese, all of that would be whole foods. Clean protein powders, the majority of the protein powders on the market are not clean. They're not good for you. Don't fall for it. Young Living has some great ones. Another one that I like and use is Truvani. And then for an actual recovery drink outside of protein. So recovery drink should never replace like whole food and protein, okay? But for those really hard days that have depleted a lot, and you can tell when your kid's knackered, we would suggest Amino Wise. It is an incredible post-recovery drink. It's full of aminos. I know that's shocking due to the name. It's full of aminos and minerals. In fact, there's 8 different branches of amino acids in it that are going to prevent muscle breakdown. Vitamin D and zinc. It actually promotes wound healing. I could go way more into the science of it, but I feel like people just sort of like don't. They sort of bow out after that. But it's got magnesium, sodium, potassium, everything to replace lost minerals during exercise. So other than good whole food nutrition and protein powders when necessary to supplement, Amino Wise is your go-to for really knackered days of working out. So even adults too, like if I have a really hard strength or cardio, I'm laughing because I haven't actually done cardio in 2 years. But if I were to do cardio, I'd for sure be drinking Amino Wise afterward. Anyway, so that's what we have for you today. It was kind of down and dirty to the point, which is basically an introduction to who I am and who Sarah Jones is. I do love talking about this stuff. I don't really get tired of people reaching out and asking. So if you have specific questions or things come up, feel free to find me on social media and send me a message. I will remind you that I'm not a doctor and that you cannot actually take what I say as a prescription, but you can layer it in my experience and what I've been through and my schooling and things like that. But we're so glad you all showed up tonight. If there's no more questions, you can either throw it in the chat or throw it or unmute yourself. Then y'all have a wonderful Thursday and a banging weekend, okay? And we'll see you next month for Oya Underground.